Yes, and it is more serialized. It's driven, as we discussed at the beginning. This is a show that was driven by character, not case. Obviously, he works cases, but there is a season-long arc that is really dealing with this question of who am I, Martin?
It was a challenging premise that I think David really handled well. I mean, the pilot brings up questions that sometimes are inevitably more interesting than the answers, and so the prosecution of it and how to take this wonderful engine of a deep cover operative and mix it with the existential dilemma that he's facing is a really, I think, a challenging recipe that I think David did a great job of serving up. But it is serialized and it's immersive.
Yeah, there's I think a rich mythology and to the show that will continue to evolve, and as well, what's driving it at the heart is there is a conspiracy related to this question of who is Martin Odom, and the show is about a guy who steps into these legends, these fabricated identities that he's using to infiltrate, to go undercover. But it kind of circles back around on him when he wonders, is Martin Odom, am I actually a legend as well? And that theme of identity is really kind of runs very deeply throughout every episode of this show.
Was this serialization part of the reshuffling of the show? Ali was telling about how it changed a little bit after the pilot.
Well, David came in later in the game after we had, I think, taken a wrong creative step and made it a much more character-based show, much more serialized, because it's a challenge. Undercover, the hazard of undercover is a guy puts on a Stetson and a stack of chips and shows up, or his mustache and his fake teeth, and it really comes from a much more internal place and a more psychological and emotional place, which is, if I'm not who I am I defined by my biography, by my CV, by my biology, or am I defined by my relationships or by my work? And those are the questions that are swirling around Martin. So it comes at this, it hits a guy in midlife at a big question, at a big time, which is sort of answer the question, who am I? Which I think is a question all of us relate to, and it's an interesting dilemma.
And as well, this is a guy who undercover has to do some questionable things, and so who he is there's a moral aspect to it as well. Is he a good man? Is he a bad man? Is he responsible for what he does undercover, or does he get a pass because technically he's supposed to be a bad guy?
In a way, it's like a sex worker or something. That says, it's like that's the job, and am I? And in a way, he has to erect that wall to be Martin Odom, and
you said erect and sex worker. I just want to point that out. And just for the record, Martin Odom does not go undercover as a sex worker at all in the season 2. Maybe in season 2. Yes.
With the mystery, does that mean you've created this whole other shadowy, mysterious force that's even more mysterious than DCO in your working out of this?
Well, I think it's I'm not. I don't think I'm revealing anything about the show, and I also don't think I'm stating anything that we all don't sort of acknowledge. Is that there are a lot of aspects of our government and forces in this. Not to sound like a conspiracy nutcase, but I'll sound like a conspiracy nutcase for a minute. Is there are a lot of things we don't know. There's a lot of sort of shadowy forces, to use your parlance, that we don't know what their intentions are. We don't know what their motives are, and I think behind the scenes there's a lot of conflict that can play in that world. Was that a vague enough? Okay.
Is Sean Bean in this room right now wearing a wig?
He might be. exactly.
He's really the guy. He's the guy. Look how good he is. He's the guy, the Asian guy on the edge.
Yeah, not bad.
Did you talk to any undercover police officers or feds before you really go into it?
I have. I know the other.
Yeah, well,
over the years.
Oh, I mean, over the years, I have. I have a background writing police shows, and that's what. So it's research that I've done, and frankly, kind of when we sort of really got going, we sort of didn't. I don't think we had time to do that. That kind of. What's that? Oh, is that? But it was important to us that the show have this sort of credibility and verisimilitude, and really be grounded and feel authentic, even though it's some pretty fantastic, heightened kind of stuff. I still think in the end it's emotionally real, and
I think it was interesting for Sean too, because that undercover, what you do undercover, you're an actor. You're creating this deep, rich mythology, and you're living it. And the actors like Daniel Day-Lewis was a deep cover operative when he plays Abraham Lincoln for 3 months, and he is Abraham Lincoln, and that's got to have collateral damage to the people around him who support him, but at the same time, and if you're saving the world, Daniel's not saving the world necessarily, but Martin is.
Can you talk about the choice of Sean Bean, and how many times have you been asked if he's gonna die?
Yes.
How many times this hour?
Good. Don't kill Sean, man. We're doing our best to keep him alive.
Did this question get answered about what happens in a single episode in terms of the story? Not the far-reaching one, but
Well, what we really tried to do was kind of slow down the story of being undercover, so that as you said, we really need a lot of running room to kind of get somebody into what is essentially a closed criminal network. You just don't knock on the door and say, I'm the guy. So we wanted to explore that. We wanted to kind of dig deep into what does it take to have an undercover operative credibly get in a way that feels authentic and would not take us out of the story. And so we tried to serialize the stories a little bit more. That there are these smaller arcs of legend, if you will, where he'll be Dante Auerbach for 3 episodes.
But he lives. But as David said, each character has an apartment or a house in a place. He is sustaining these identities simultaneously, and people in the world so these characters live, and it's not an infinite number of characters, so they're all living. It's almost like he has multiple personality disorder as a will. That's his gift. That's what he does.
He doesn't
solved on a single episode basis. There's not something that has to be solved.
No, he doesn't say, there's I have to. It's a motorcycle gang of bad guys. I have to become a motorcycle gang member. So he puts on his leathers or anything like that. He has these identities, these legends that pre-exist, and he says, you know what? I can use this identity to infiltrate that world. That has credibility. Len Barlow is a legend that he has, who is a sort of a Texas roughneck who he can walk into any bar, fight anybody in there, and walk out with the girl, and he's going to be able to kind of get the ball rolling in terms of his investigation.
And it's fun. I mean, I think we talk about the idea that when Martin Odom's life, or what Martin Odom believes is his life, echoes with another part, a character he's created. It's fun. You're learning about Martin Odom in a really interesting way, in a certain prism of these other characters he's playing. So his marital strife in the pilot and in the first 3 episodes is sort of brought into relief. How he messed up his marriage. Dante Auerbach shares a similar tragedy in his life. So we're learning about Martin in a kind of interesting way, not directly, but...
All right, thank you guys.